I'm Amethyst to Herrick. We spent a lot of time practicing that one. Oh, wait a minute. No, we didn't. No, we spent no time. I forgot. It was perfect. Well,
Anything that's coming from my heart, and no question is a bad question. No question is a wrong question either. We're here to clarify things and to also share and keep us connected.
Uh, Amethyst. Oh,
I saw
you've seen
that.
it.
I saw that. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's funny. Lino did the whole intro and no one could hear it apparently.
right. So we
Oh,
just oh gosh, maybe it's me. But I do have so
that's
you should be
okay.
able to hear everybody now. Because I've got everybody on monitor and output.
Oh, oh, you mean nobody was able to hear me right now?
No,
No,
no.
you
I
did your
mean, bit of
lovely
iron.
intro.
Yeah, bit of comedy in
Okay,
that.
now she can hear. She had to exit and come back
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay, good. I apologize for that. That was on me. I just so that you know, I set up a whole new account with Streamlabs here, so I had to redo every single piece of assets that I
Oh,
did that I had from last week. Yeah, yeah. So
okay.
that was not a
Well,
lot
thank
of
you for
not a
that.
lot of. So of course, yeah, I feel kind of dorky, but either way. So we were going to talk about we are incredible humans, first of all, and we were going to talk about social interactions, which is kind of a crazy thing, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Before and after gender
Before and after,
transition.
Oh,
yes.
I love that. Yes.
So
Social
Mm,
interactions before and after transitions, the things that we have
yeah,
experienced in our before gender versus our current gender. How are they the
yeah.
same and how are they different? And what have we
mm.
observed and noticed?
I am
You know,
particularly excited to hear from Lino on this one because I haven't actually heard much of a trans masc perspective on this. So
yeah.
I'm
I was going to
keen
ask
to
the
chat.
same. Can you go first,
Yeah.
Lino? Lay it on us.
Yeah, sure. The most interesting thing. So, for those tuning in for the first time, lived the first 34 years of my life as a woman. I'm about to turn 45 next month. So, we're going on, yeah, right? 10 years, almost 11 years here
Yeah,
into transition. But still, 34 years of my life as a woman is a whole lifetime. I had
Yeah.
time to be, a little girl and a teenager. I had a quinceañera. If you know what a quinceañera is, it's when a
Yeah.
15-year-old Mexican girl becomes a woman and the whole world witnesses it. They have a big party. I had a big quinceañera. And so, yeah, I became a woman witnessed by 300 of my family members back in 1994,
oh
95.
gosh,
I know, crazy,
Mm.
right? And so,
300.
what was that like being a woman? And also, I mean, I played the part well. I wore makeup, I wore high heels. I wore skirts, and I did whatever I could to be accepted by society and to be seen as a normal, quote unquote, normal girl. But what was the difference there? So when I remember myself as a female, so one of the biggest things that I've seen that's changed quite drastically, and the drasticness changed once my voice started changing. I started getting facial hair, and I just didn't pass as a female at all. At this point, I mean, you're either a 14-year-old boy or something else. I don't know, but it's no longer a woman or a girl, identified to our stereotypical eyes. And so some of the first things I started noticing is that men, dudes, guys, they weren't as nice to me anymore. And I was like, what? I
Mm.
started realizing, wait a minute. So you mean when those dudes used to open the door for me, they were opening it up the door for me for a different reason? It wasn't to be a nice guy, it was because they wanted something. And so that's really some of the stuff I started realizing. And it actually gave me one thing is I actually felt kind of relieved. I was like, oh gosh, because it was hectic. Guys always like, and I was a super duper attractive woman, so guys were always like, can I get the door for you? Can I do it? Can I do this for you? How about, do you need me to pump the gas for you? It was like something like, hey man, whoa, okay, really nice. But then I turn around and they're sitting there looking at me, and that didn't make me feel comfortable ever. I didn't like being looked at that way. And so when I was finally free of that, men aren't turning heads anymore or offering a million things. Can I do for you? That in a way was a relief, but then I realized, wait a minute, so guys aren't really that nice. Like, wow. And then now when guys are nice to me, now I know they're really just being like the dude, the homie. Yeah, what's up, bro? Yeah, they're broing out. So now there's a different niceness. There's like a bro niceness versus a can I get something out of you niceness. I guess that's the only way I can describe it. And so also, and even though, because I'm a smaller dude, I'm a smaller frame dude and smaller stature, but even still, one of the things that I still sometimes battle with is my safety. And I don't know if those are remnants from being a female, but I never felt safe as a woman. If they're looking at me like that in the day when I'm pumping gas, what's it going to be like if I go to the grocery store at night?
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel safe. I know what it's like to be a woman, to feel unsafe and to be sexualized and also minimized and also looked at like a little girl. Like, you're a little girl. Yeah, I want to you. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? So it's like, it was kind of disturbing. But still, even being a smaller statured person, I would have hoped that I would have grown with testosterone as well. Like, hey, can I grow a foot taller? But I didn't, and so there's some of these remnants. If I'm out late at night, I'm still looking around and feeling like I got to protect myself, especially if I see taller dudes. It just happens to me like, whoa, am I safe? I'm actually a black belt martial arts, but can a black belt save me from being raped that night or put a gun to my head? Probably not. Am I living with these thoughts in my head? No, I'm not living my day-to-day like this, but there's still some remnants from my past that trickle into my life when I'm doing stuff at night. And so, I mean, that's one thing. And then another thing, let me know if I'm talking too fast because I'm feeling a little hyper here.
This is great. Keep it going.
Slow my roll. So another thing I noticed, one thing I used to love going to the restroom as a woman, because women are so nice to each other. Like, oh, nice hair. Oh, I like those shoes. Or, hey, where'd you get your hair done? Or, what? Let me see your nails. Like something. Girls are always just so like, how's it going? But dudes aren't like that in the bathroom. And I had to learn that the hard way. When I started finally passing and going to the men's restroom, I was still in girl mode. And I was washing my hands, be like, hey, it's a lovely day. Hey, those are nice shoes, man. And they'd be like, no. Moving away,
Right.
And it's like, what's going on?
They're not in there taking selfies together and
I know, right?
checking each other fits.
Yeah. Then I noticed I had to ask some of my dude friends. I was like, hey, do you guys talk? He's like, no. We just do our business and we're out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, male. That's male culture.
So wait,
Got
even
it.
if it's your friends going in there, if you go in there, you're silent.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
guys are silent, and
Oh.
even to this day, it's still because I'm a peppy person. I still want to go in and share a smile or two, but they won't even eye contact. It's like
No.
Look, oh, it's like they're robots all of a sudden. Gotta go, and it's like, whoa, dude, really? Okay, I don't know what that's about, but apparently there's no camaraderie in the men's restroom, or hope you have a nice day or nice shoes you got on. It just doesn't happen.
No. Jerry Seinfeld had a bit about that, actually.
Did he really? I love Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, this was way back. He had this bit about how men go into a restroom and everybody's just like a gorilla. This is the whole thing. There's no talking. You might walk in, you might beat your chest a couple of times, but really all you're hoping is that you swing in, pee, and swing out. That's it.
That makes sense. Maybe I'll, puff out a couple grunts next time or something. Maybe they'll understand that. Caveman talk or something.
Hit yourself in the chest a few times.
Yeah, I know. Something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, those are some of the differences that I've noticed. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of other things in between as far as how to talk to women. Oh, I have another example. So I must have been maybe my second year into transition. So I'm second, third year. Maybe I look like a 14, 15-year-old boy at this point. But I was at the post office, and a woman had just had a baby, and I was in line. I was gonna mail something, and the baby looked maybe a couple weeks old. Okay. And I said something that I would have said as a female, trying to just regular talk. I just said, "Oh, hey, fresh out of the oven, are you?" I said something like that, and she looked at me and she said, I wouldn't call it that. And I was like, whoa, I had never had a woman talk to me like that before. And I realized there's just some things that women can say to women that men
Yes.
can't say to women. So those are some of the learning. It was a learning curve, you know. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's not pretty much it. But I'd like to give the both of you the opportunity. To talk as
There's
well.
tons. Jasmine,
That's really interesting, though.
I want to hear yours. I want to hear yours now, Jasmine, because you transitioned pretty early. All right, do you want me to go first instead?
I actually want to ask Lino that there's so many things that are coming up for me as we're going through this. That social interaction, oh, just fresh out of the oven, are you, like that kind of thing? Why do you feel the social interaction's different there? Is it just like a lack of camaraderie, or they don't expect that you understand their social experience? Like, what? That surprises me.
You mean a comment such as like, "Oh, fresh out of the oven," look at
Yeah.
something like that? I think
Yeah.
because women are, and to be super duper honest, I think it really boils down to them protecting their parts as females. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if I were to put myself in her shoes, and if I were to see a young teenage boy, appearing look teenage boy, says to me, "Oh, fresh out of the oven," I would right away be protective of my feminine parts. And be like, hang on, kiddo, respect me. No, it's not fresh out of the oven. You know, it's I just gave birth to a beautiful life. You know, where it's just coming from a more protective sense is what I'm feeling from it. If I were to, you know, if the shoe was on the other side.
How did that feel for you?
Well, I mean, these are great questions. Thank you. At the moment, I mean, I just kind of whoa. That's kind of what I felt like. Whoa. It was just one of those realizing moments, Lino. There's this stuff you just can't say to women anymore. And welcome to manhood, you know? Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And even hitting on women, you know, because before when I was lesbian identified, I hit on women different than the mind. I can't hit on women. I mean, I have a beautiful girlfriend now. I have all full respect to her. But back before her, I mean, even as a new man, there's no way that I could hit on women the way I hit on women when I was a woman. It's just everything changed.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that because women expect different. It's different communication. Like if you're going to be communicated to by a woman, did I say that right? Close enough. Yeah, I mean it's very different. Like especially if you're going to hit on somebody, because you know I've been pansexual my whole life. It was different like hitting on men than it was women. Women you have to be a bit more subtle, and men it was just kind of like, want to go home and have a roll in the hay. Men were like, yeah.
No.
I mean that's why, right?
You can't do that with a woman. You do that, they'll slap you in the face. What are you talking about? I'll give you such a smack. It's
yeah, it felt to me that
different.
I mean when I was a woman, I was just a lot more vocal and more aggressive.
Yeah.
And it was I mean I'm glad that I can be honest with the both of you, but it was pretty easy to to get women back then. It was. And as a man, it wasn't easy. I mean, that's why I was single for 8.5 years. I didn't kiss a woman for 8.5 years because I had this major cold feet and insecurities. Life has changed. I don't know how to hit on women anymore. Because before, the way I hit on women is, can I buy, just buy you a drink or send a wink over, write a poem on a card, send it over, and be like, here's my phone number. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Do you want to go dancing? It seems like it was just a lot more easier. But as a dude, it's like women right away start to judge. Who's this 5'1" dude? Who are you? What do you want? What do you have? I even had a woman ask me if I had $1 million, so it was kind of like, whoa, things totally changed. It wasn't the same.
Wow.
And I had to go through this major realm of insecurity before coming back to loving myself and seeing that, being more in a more wholesome, authentic, leave the past behind, the new version of myself. But life has totally changed. I'll tell you that much.
I believe it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Jasmine, I want to hear yours because you.
I feel a little bit boring with this. Like, I don't know what exactly to say because I transitioned quite early. By 16, I was living full-time as myself. And so I only really experienced being a boy up until maybe when I was 12. And then from there, I was very, very feminine, but still perceived as a boy. And then I've been perceived as a woman since then. So trying to pick out the social differences, I didn't notice a lot. However, I did notice a lot of misogyny. When I started passing as a woman, which I don't like that term, we'll call it suspected. When I started being suspected, I started getting things like people honking at me on the street, or, catcalling, yelling out crap. I definitely did notice people starting to be really nice, like guys in particular. I did notice that. Whereas like before, I would either be ignored or I would be bullied for being a feminine boy. So like that was the two things. And so when I transitioned, it was like people started looking at me and started opening doors for me and started like chatting to me and, oh, how you going, sweetheart? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Or I'd start, being called Dal and Hun and all of that just by random people. And for me, that was really affirming because it showed that,
Sure.
okay, yeah, I'm getting towards where I want to be. However, the catcalling side of things, it was simultaneously really gross and also really affirming. Because it was like, oh, what the hell? Why would you just yell out, hey, nice tits? Like, it's just
Right?
It's like so gross and disgusting. So there's like that emotion there, and at the same time, I'm like, oh, thank you. You seem that's nice.
Right.
So that's some of the things that I noticed, but I'm also aware that I haven't had a lot of experience being, I guess, perceived as male in male social interactions, because I was always perceived as very feminine and guys didn't really want much to do with me. I never went into toilets. I don't know what it's like being in like a bathroom, where like in a men's bathroom, really, because I literally have 2 memories of being in a men's bathroom.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a problem. I would hold my pee for hours and hours and hours.
No, same.
I would get kidney infections. I
Well,
would
the same
not
there.
drink water so that I wouldn't need to go to the toilet. Yeah. So I avoided those situations as much as possible. I don't know. I feel a bit boring on this topic.
No,
I don't think that's boring at all. I mean, especially that's a real thing. And there's a lot of people currently doing these things right now, currently going through that, holding their pee. I mean, this is another reason why we're coming together to bring this awareness and to hope that people don't feel alone when they're in a situation like that. They need to use a restroom, and hope that for more equality and for more commonality and for more connection and love. Because the more people can see that we're all struggling one way or another, even if we appear to be laughing and having a good time, there's some struggles that we're facing behind doors that we're not aware of. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I would do the same. I wasn't going to go into a bathroom when I was at school. I don't care how much I had to pee. I would hold it, the whole day. And similar thing, I just won't get, I won't drink any water with lunch or something like that. It's not a big, it seemed like it wasn't a big deal. But now I guess looking back, it's like, that's kind of important. Like, what, you got kidney infections. Like, that's serious.
Part of that, though, like part of the reason for that was it was like a self-harm thing in a sense as well. It was like, yes, I don't want to have to go to the bathroom, but it was also, if I deprive myself of these things, is that going to stunt my growth? So I'm not going to grow, 6'3" and muscly. Like, that's part of the reasoning for it as well, which was not very healthy at all. But yeah.
But I hear that. Was your socialization, would you say much of your socialization was feminine then?
I feel like a lot of my socialization was very neutral.
Okay.
Like at home, I wasn't scolded for being feminine. It was like, oh yeah, they're pretending the blanket's a skirt. I'm like, oh, you go off. Like, I don't really care. So I didn't have a lot of negative socialization around that.
Good.
But in school, I really only hung out with women or, with girls at the time. And I had like a couple of guy friends, but they were like the really scrawny, nerdy guys that were like, the outcasts as well. So we're all kind of all us outcasts together.
Sure.
But yeah, socialization wise, I never went to sports things. I never went and interacted with sports with the boys because I would look at that and I'm like, I mean, it's nice to watch. Like, lovely, but I don't want to be a part of that. So there's some times I remember like that where it's like all the classes are being separated into the boys and girls, and the boys are off on the field playing soccer and the girls are off playing tennis. And I didn't want to go and play with the boys. I wasn't allowed to go and play with the girls either. And so I would just sit on the sidelines and be like, well, I'd have a comb out and I'd be like teasing my hair and selfies. Like,
So
it was
you
either
sure knew,
neutral or feminine.
yeah, you sure knew how to protect yourself from being bullied there if you were sitting on the sidelines teasing your hair, right? I mean, that certainly helped.
Now hold on
come
a
on.
second. Oh, you
getting-
did.
Yeah, were they kicking the ball towards you? I mean, that's got to be.
No, because I was behind
Really?
the wall.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Sorry. Never mind.
Yeah. I went and like sat in on the inside where I could like see the window. I'm like, and it was raining too. They're all like playing soccer in the rain. I'm like, excuse me, do you know how long I spent straightening my hair today?
Right. You're not going to go out there and let it get frizzy and everything. That's awful. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Once I embraced like that femininity, I was very, very girly. I look back at it and I'm like, girl, come on, get some grit. Like, what are you doing?
Did you have the whole pink haze thing though? You probably didn't, because oh yeah, the pink haze. Lino, do you know what I mean by that?
No, I don't know what you mean by
Okay.
pink haze. When I hear haze, I think of purple haze. I think of
Right.
yeah.
So the pink haze, as it was told to me, and I've seen it happen too. When the egg cracks and they go, okay, I'm gonna transition. It's gonna be the best thing I ever did. And all of a sudden you have like pink water bottles, pink nail polish, pink, pink coffee cups, pink toothbrush, pink everything, like pink toenail polish, pink underpants. Doesn't make a difference what you have. It's pink. You've got your pink reverse Polish notation, HP calculator, all of the things.
Oh,
Pink. Like you do.
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't do that, I would guess, because you didn't have, because the femininity was okay your whole life.
Not exactly. I didn't really care about myself a whole lot. I didn't put much effort into appearance or anything like that. When I accepted my femininity more, which for me was coming out as a gay guy,
Sure.
because that gave me permission to be a lot more feminine. I noticed bullying went way down when that happened, because people would say, oh, you F word, or like, oh, you look like a girl. And I'd be like, oh, thanks. Of course I do.
Right.
I'm like, oh, you're so feminine. I'm like, yeah, cool. And so it really just took the wind out of my sails, which was great.
Yeah.
Then when I started leaning more into it and I started, actually transitioning, it shifted, like the bullying shifted again. It ramped up because now they're like, oh, well, the soft spot wasn't there before because I called you feminine and it didn't bug you like it did before. And now I call you manly, or I call you a boy, or blah, blah, blah. So, it's just the people looking for anything that they can press on to offend you.
Of course.
So that ramped up quite a bit. And femininity, there wasn't necessarily a pink haze at that point. There was a black haze. I was very, very gothic presenting. I'd have like the dark liner and, the fringe going across one eye and the ripped fishnet kind of sleeves and everything.
So that's closer to emo just so you know.
But yeah. Well, I don't really know.
Not that I'm a purist, clearly. Sorry about that.
I don't really know the difference. All I know is it was all dressed in black and all of that.
Sure.
However, what I noticed, probably between like 14 and 17, some of those little social cues that I didn't learn to like be feminine were being picked up on by people, like nitpicked. And so if I were to sit without my legs crossed, that's not very feminine of you.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I didn't have like my hair straightened one day, well, that's not very feminine of you. So people started picking at those things. Or if I like laughed too much, like some really weird things, like started getting picked up as masculine. So
that's interesting, huh?
Laughing. That is weird.
Yeah, like if you do a big belly laugh, how very manly of you. It's going to be otherwise you're a man. It's like, what the fuck?
What about sneezing? Same thing? Did you do?
Yeah, same thing. You like a big sneeze.
Right.
Nowadays, I just poke fun at it, and I will make my sneezes as big as possible. But I learned how to do the sneeze where I go.
Yes. Right.
I learned how to do that. I learned how to bloody sit with my legs crossed all the time and to not appear too large. I've got to, make myself smaller and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that was really pushed onto me. It was like this social correction tool where I wasn't meeting the ideal standards of what is expected to be a woman. And so I think of my old business coach at the moment. He used to talk about a metaphor where horses have this like social correction tool where if a horse is stepping out of line and they're not, behaving like the other horses, they get this like they get a bit of that. And if they don't get in line, then they start getting a little bit of a kick. And like, come on, you dickhead, like step in line, no sneezing loud, no like none of that. And then if you still don't step in line, they start to bite you.
Jeez.
And
glad I'm not a horse.
the exact same thing. That's exactly what that thing is.
That's a good point. Yeah. Not like this is any better.
Little social correction tools. Yeah. That's definitely something I noticed a lot.
Yeah. I have a question for you both. Can I ask a question to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because Jasmine, you said you came out as a gay guy.
Yeah.
And so it was okay to be effeminate. And then Lino, you had said that you were a lesbian before, and things changed. The way that you talk to people changed, talk to women changed.
Yeah.
By the way, also I want to say hi to Valentina. My apologies, we never did say hi to anybody. Hi to Valentina, and hi to Brooklyn.
Hello, Brooklyn.
And hi to the people over on the TikTok, David. I remember you from the YouTube.
TikTok.
Hello. You can come join us on YouTube, by the way. We have all the streams on YouTube every Monday.
Every Monday.
Or day. Every Tuesday from
4
Australia.
o'clock Pacific. So the question I was going to say, though, because all of my life, I mean, if I think about it, is all of my life anyway, I identified as pansexual. And to a certain extent, I feel like that gave me like license to a certain extent to have both sides. That even how do I want to put this? That even though I don't believe that sex and gender are related, sexuality was enough to say, okay, well, I can be both feminine and masculine because I like both boys and girls. I guess I would have those backwards, but you get my point. So, is that because Jasmine, when you brought up the point that you came out as a gay guy, why did that make that better? And Lino, why did it change that the way you had to talk to people? Why?
If I understand the question correctly, for me it was pretty simple. Because gay guys I always perceived to be very feminine. Okay. And my uncle was a gay guy. He did drag. He was very into makeup, and he would he kind of did the hard work in my family for gaining acceptance for that. So I'm very grateful to him for that, honestly, because it definitely did
Thank
make
you,
my
Uncle.
journey a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though he's a very questionable person, that's one thing that I'm very grateful for. And so seeing that growing up, I assumed that that's what gay guy was. It meant
see.
very feminine and all that, to the point that even when I started being gendered she, her, I was like, oh, I guess gay guys can be called she, her. I guess gay guys can want to grow their hair out to past their knees. Gay guys can want to wear makeup every day. Gay guys can want to wear, feminine clothing all the time. And
Sure.
yeah, it got to that point where I was like, oh, maybe I'm not a gay guy. but that's what I associated with it. That femininity was
Yeah.
associated with it for me.
Yeah. Lino, has your sexuality you've always been attracted to women?
So I was always originally attracted to women, and then I would say I became bisexual within that time by default. And the reason why I say default is because, like anything, for example, let's just say that in the dopaminergic pathways, neurotransmitters, the chemicals in our brains will start to change, especially at a young age, if you start to expose yourself to something more often, no matter what it is. Whether, let's say, you never like hot dogs. I just hate hot dogs. I hate them. But now I've had it with a little bit of ketchup, and now I kind of like them. Well, no, I added never like mustard, but everyone kept telling me you get to try mustard no matter where I go. And now mustard's okay. So though, that's how it was for me, as a late teen. It was always pushed on. How do you know unless you've been with the guy? Be with the guy, be with the guy, be with the guy. Okay, fine. So I tried being with various guys. I'm like, nope, still like girls, still like girls, still like girls. But then next thing I know, I'm like, hey, it's not that bad being with a guy now that I've been with who knows how many. You know what? If I'm bored, Friday night as an 18-year-old and that guy wants to hook up, let's go have some fun.
Sure.
But the type of mentality that I had back then was that I was very guy-like. So I broke a lot of guys' hearts, and I felt awful about it because a lot of guys fell for her. And it was like, well, I'm just playing the game that you're playing, dude. I'm just playing the game that you're playing, dude. And,
Amazing.
and then next thing I know, I'm breaking hearts and they're crying for me. And it made me feel awful afterwards. I'm like, oh, no, I'm breaking hearts and I'm just trying to have fun here. Because the person I'm really trying to be, the person I want to be, is not allowed to be. And so this is my only other my only other option. And if this is my only other option right now, being bisexual or trying to be heterosexual, and then I see the approval of my parents, I see the approval of my friends and my family and society, I'm gonna try this. But yet trying this is detrimental to my well-being. And not only detrimental to my well-being, it's detrimental to others. It was hurting them. And so, I mean, I was in between really a rock and hard place at the time, and it was really challenging. And so, but changing, did I answer that? Because there's something else I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, enough. Go ahead.
So when Jasmine right now was talking about the whole switching from like feminine to masculine, from masculine to feminine, and then all of a sudden just naturally being feminine and yet not feminine enough. I had my similar experience, but my opposite experience was that as a woman, I tried to be very masculine. And I say try to be because I was trying to be, and I was overcompensating for the fact that I don't look like who I look like now. And so back then, I was sitting with my legs open. Yeah, I was, spitting after playing sports. I was being like the dude of the dude in a female body. But when I became the dude, I no longer wanted to do all those hardcore masculine things. I don't have to sit with my legs my legs open anymore. Now I sit with my legs crossed. I don't have to spit at the street. In fact, it disgusts me and it grosses me out now. I don't need to do that. So there's a lot of things that I've actually, tweaked to really become myself now. And my own morals and my own values. I could be my utmost person at my own best respect now, being who I am. And because I love who I am, there's no more borders, no more boundaries with who I can be. But back then, as a female, I was trying to overcompensate, and so I acted more masculine. Yeah, that's it. But what about you, though? You've heard from us, Amethysta.
I think that's the pink haze. I think you just described the pink haze. Only unfortunately,
the blue haze.
It was like the loogie. Hazers.
No, man, loogies gross me out. You know what? I won't do that anymore. No way. Mm-mm.
Can I ask like a question around this quickly?
Yeah, do it.
Couple of things. That that behavior, the like, hyper masculine behavior is often viewed as like toxic masculinity, yada yada.
Yes.
Does that come about as a result of feeling insecure in
Ooh,
masculinity?
yeah.
You mean hyper masculinity as a woman?
Yeah. Did that come about as being insecure?
That is, I mean, definitely. I mean, that, I believe it's multifaceted. First, it is definitely an
Mm.
insecurity, and second, it's a protective mechanism. I noticed that the minute I acted like a man as a woman, men would kind of back off a bit. Hold on, something's
Hmm.
different. Or
Mm.
guys would right away be like, "Do you like chicks?" You know, I'd be like, "Probably more than you do, buddy." You know, stuff like that. You know, I'd always have a comeback line or something. You know, so it was kind of like it was my way to protect myself, and all
Yeah.
protective mechanisms are from insecurities. And so, I
Mm.
mean, yes, definitely,
Yeah.
That is
Okay.
fascinating.
isn't
That's
it?
pretty crazy.
Because that's interesting. Like when you see, especially very young guys, when they're still figuring themselves out, they're still settling into their social kind of system and all of that, they often adopt that kind of behavior and they hyper masculinize
And some
things.
stay that way,
Mm, yeah,
and will stay like that their whole lives,
Oh, for sure.
interesting.
Yeah.
right?
And that's where you get
Listen,
these people that are so repressed and they don't know how to express emotions and they're
Exactly,
just,
exactly.
yeah, goodness me.
yeah, you don't have to look
Interesting.
very far to see that
No.
12-year-old attitude, the 12-year-old
Yeah.
boy attitude, I should say, because it is
The
different in
other,
girls. But
yeah. The other part that I wanted to touch on is something that you said, Lino, about, I guess, the exposure side of things, because this brought up a thought where a lot of anti-trans people will typically say that exposure creates the woke mind virus and turns people transgender. And it's like,
you're right.
yeah, I wanted your thoughts on that when you're saying about, the mustard and yada yada and eventually becoming okay with it. It doesn't change who you are, but it made you more okay with the other side. Like, do you get what I don't know how to ask the question here.
Oh,
Maybe I need more clarity. Amethyst, how do you understand her
Hmm.
question?
I mean, the way I'm hearing this is, and Jasmine, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean,
Hmm.
is there a distinction between becoming less sensitive to things and actually changing who you are? Does that along the lines of what you were going for,
Yeah, I
Jasmine?
mean, there's people that will say if you see trans people on the TV and all of that, then, or if you teach about trans people in sex ed or yada yada, that it turns kids trans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you're saying that, I'm feeling what I'm feeling from this is a bunch. I'm getting a bunch of stuff here. I'm getting, and remember, I'm super duper spiritual here. So
Mm,
there is no time frame that we are born into that isn't the right time. Everything is perfect synchronicity. So whether this was my personal story to experiment with men the way that I did,
Mm.
and I do say experiment because that's what it felt like to me, and but I don't have any regrets, and it made me who I am today, and I
Yeah.
love who I am today. And in doing so, if putting mustard on your hot dog, it becomes something that you can get used to once in a while, and if we can hypothetically say that if kids get exposed to trans, they will somehow get it like a virus. I don't
Mm.
understand that, but if people are thinking that, the most beautiful thing that I can say about that is that we're human beings and we're all made of love. And if this is the time of period that people
Mm.
incarnated to see themselves and free themselves and be themselves and know that we're both masculine and feminine energy, and if we are the catalyst to help bring this change and to help bring this awareness, then it's really a beautiful thing and not anything to fear. When people are
Mm.
seeing trans people and seeing these things like, oh, you're going to make our kids trans, that's coming out of fear. And what is that fear about? That's not love.
that's a good
There's
point.
not
Mm.
love there. that's all fear, and that's ingrained somewhere, either in their culture or either in past lives or either in society or their country or wherever they're from. This is all fear-based society. If it's a love-based society, people are going to say that's awesome that you're being inspired by this trans person. So so it really depends on the type of camera angle that you're coming at it, where you're feeling from it. But in a really spiritual and humanistic perspective, I think that it's really connecting people. I have no regrets to have been with the men that I've dated, some beautiful men, some men that have given me some nice experiences. Yes, I've broken hearts, and I've had guys break my heart too. And I've had the duality and that experience to have been with both men and women, to be able to see the beauty in life. I'm glad that I had that experience, because I know that I can just fall in love with a human.
That is a great point. It was so great, I choked on my own. I gasped in. I was like, oh, that's so good. And then I started talking and went, oops, I'm going to cough.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, it's a live show. If I'm going to do something crazy, I'm just going to tell you, hey, look, I choked on my own spit.
That's okay.
Right. Much easier to do.
So long as you don't make me cry with laughter on the live show. I mean,
so there is a good question here from Jason Liu. Yeah. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Jason.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for your question.
Yeah. I mean, part of what you were saying there, I think even Jasmine, what you're asking too. I mean, do we, like this internal transphobia, we get taught this. We get taught that expressing the opposite gender is wrong. And not just, oh, you shouldn't be girly. Oh, you shouldn't be a tomboy. But like morally, ethically wrong. And so it's hard to overcome that, right? I mean, you get this internal transphobia. And because, I mean, I was a year into, well, it was less. But, I mean, I'd been aware of my gender for a long time. And I still had, transphobia. That I can remember going into Barnes & Noble. Sorry, I've got a real story here, finally. I can remember going into a bookstore. It was when I had started transition. And I saw some girl walk by with a really cute skirt. And I looked at it and went, oh, really cute skirt. And then I heard her say to her friend, yeah, I'm going to go look at the manga. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll find me there. And I went, ew. Oh, what do you do with it? And then I thought, Amy, what the hell? Like, why would you, the skirt suddenly became less cute because of my own internal transphobia. I wish I had a question that came out of that. Now I've just admitted this, and you both are like, you were the worst person I've ever known.
Not at all.
Clutching your pearls, holy cats, we've got to go and get a new hostess for this.
Not at all.
Let's eject her, but so how do you do that? How do you handle that?
I'd like to know, because you didn't answer the question around social interaction before and after transition. I'd love to know from you, Amy, and in context with Jason's question, have you felt like, that internalized transphobia, or feeling like a predator in women's spaces or whatnot after transition?
So that's a good question. I'll start from like when I was a kid, because Jasmine, I had nowhere near the affirming experiences that you did. I have the feeling my father disliked me because he could sense there was something, I wasn't going to be quite like he was. And he had these big, huge Popeye like forearms, and he was a machinist and could, work on any car. And I mean, I'm serious, he would like re-weld car frames. I mean, it was the kind of thing that I was like, I don't think this is normal. Is this these are normal men? Because I'm not living up to this. I don't know if there's anybody, I was going to ask the audience, if there are any normal men out there, can you tell me, do you weld car frames? I'm going to guess most people are going to go, I'm not a normal man.
I feel like
either.
that's a little excessive.
Right? So I didn't get these affirming experiences, and I didn't transition gender until I was 52. So I had an entire career. My entire, career in technology was as a white man in technology. which in some ways made things very easy because I would sort of naturally be looked to as a leader. But then it was very difficult because the way I express myself is not very masculine. And so it was sort of like, oh, well, you're the white guy. You're the white dude in the room. You tell us. And it'd be like, oh, gosh, well, I don't know. What do you think? If we collaborated on something like this? And by the way, I love those shoes. It'd be like, sorry, that didn't work. So even before I had transitioned, there was a sense of, there's something weird about this one. But when I did transition, it is interesting. I mentioned last time, I think it was last time, I took my car to a garage or something, and they're like telling me this is a tire, pointing at something. This is a tire, and I'm like, no, I got that. I mean, come on, my father made me stand next to him while he re-welded frames. I mean, of course I know what a tire is. Where was I going with that? Oh, I guess just in some ways it was affirming, like you said, Jasmine, because I had somebody drive past me too, call me sugar tits, I think was what it was.
Sugar tits.
It's well, it was affirming, and at the same time I go, I should be offended by this. Instead, I went home and I asked all my friends, I'm like, should I be offended by this? And everybody else who was a transgender woman was like, you probably should. But oh my gosh, did you really get Kevin? It's sort of sad that I'm like, cool, look, I got some misogyny. That's awesome. I appreciate this. So to reel this back in, I think that internal transphobia came from learning how people reacted to me before I transitioned, because I had a position that should have been really great privilege. And oftentimes, from the tech bro standpoint, I squandered it because of who I am. And so I think that oftentimes I would see somebody who was transgender, if I could tell, and not only would I be angry at her, clearly because I was envious, but I think I also thought, I would never, if I transitioned, I wouldn't be like that. I wouldn't be that kind of transgender. I don't really know what that was, but it was, hopefully that came out well enough. I think the pain came because I should have been in a very privileged position, but didn't pull it off well. So this question, to go back to Jason's question, I have never felt like a predator in a woman's space. In the 90s, going back to my teenage years, I was always, do I want to say accepted with the girls? When I was dressing up as a graduate student and as an undergraduate, I would just go and use the women's restroom, and it was perfectly natural. Today, even before I had surgery, before I had a vaginoplasty, we were going to the gym, and I would go into the women's locker room, and nobody ever looked at me sideways. So it could well be that just I passed that well. I don't think that's it necessarily, but I think I don't have vibes that would be predatory. That's my sense.
I don't think so.
Well, thank you. I think there are some people you can feel that, and it doesn't make a difference if they're wearing a skirt or a pair of pants. You feel they might be out to get you. So I don't know that I answered anything, actually, Jason. How did I handle my internal transphobia? Sooner or later, I learned to recognize it and go, what I'm feeling is either envy or jealousy or whatever it is, and then reminded myself, I am doing this too. I'm doing this. And I have no reason to feel envious or jealous, because each of us becomes who we are on our own, no matter what. It was something that Lino was saying earlier too. So I'm going to trail off and just kind of go, yeah.
Well, I can pick up the trail if you like. I've got a bunch of things
Okay,
coming to
go at
mind.
it. Go at it.
Because this question, I'm pondering on it very deeply and like considering what you're saying as well. And feeling like a predator in women's spaces, I think for myself, I've always felt like prey in whatever space I'm in, whether it's a men's space or a woman's space. One of the things that comes to mind is when I was at school and it was, everyone had gone back to classes or whatever. And that was like the one time where I'm like, okay, I feel like I can use a bathroom, but I've got to like duck in and duck out really quickly.
Right.
And I was walking past and I'm like feeling terrified looking at the freaking men's bathroom. I'm like, no, I'd never actually gone in there. I'd always used a teacher's bathroom.
Wow.
But it was the first time I decided I was going to use the women's bathroom. And at that point, I think I was still in the male school uniform. And so I definitely like stuck out, but there was no one around. I was like, okay, I'm just going to like go pee really quickly, come out. And a teacher came and like pulled me out of there. That absolutely unacceptable. You can't be going into like the women's restroom, yada, yada. And I can get that she was probably fearful due to transphobia or whatnot around that. Perhaps that was like the perception. I felt fearful myself because I'm like, you're telling me to go in there. Like the last time I went into a male's bloody restroom was when I had to do a number 2 really badly. And so I had to go and someone kicked the door down and started like, it was horrible. So I was terrified of that. And that was the first time I'd ever used like a women's restroom. And that was the response. I felt like prey in that scenario too. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't belong anywhere. Like, I don't. But that's the feeling that I got mostly. However, internalized transphobia. Okay, where do I start with this? I feel like people who spend much of their lives as their assigned gender at birth experience internalized transphobia differently to people who don't. If they live most of their lives as their assigned gender at birth, there's certain social expectations that have been brought up and anchored in over and over and over decades.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
That forms part of our identity and how we relate to others in the world. And even if it doesn't feel right, we build a certain facade of this is who I am, even if it's not true. And so after transition, feeling like a predator in those spaces, I feel comes from the, how do I say this? Is it like fear of men, or it's like understanding, talking specifically from a trans femme perspective, understanding how men act and react around each other and what their social like paradigms are, and then shifting from that, expecting yourself to be perceived in that way in like a women's space, horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Because you know how you perceive that dynamic. I feel like there was more I wanted to say on that, and my brain's gone blank.
I don't think I did that though. I don't feel like that happened to me. I don't, when I first, go ahead then. Sorry, I was killing time.
That reminded me. It's the integration of identity. And for you, Amethyst, correct me if I'm wrong, but being like identifying as pan growing up and being able to lean into those different areas for yourself, I wonder if that potentially helped you integrate into the feminine identity quicker.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. I think if you're, because there's nothing, I don't know if there's anything that people sort of fear more than the transgender woman who is 100% like into women. Because it seems weird. Now you're transitioning and you go, well, but so wait, shouldn't you like men? And any transgender woman I know didn't necessarily experience a change in sexuality as well. So
yeah. I
Did we
wonder
talk
if that's
about
the
this?
case as well,
No,
because
that's excellent to bring that up.
like I always identified as being attracted to men, whether it was whatever. It wasn't until I was like 16 that I first had like an interaction with a woman, and we were together for a few years. But that prior to that, I was always only interested in men, and I wonder if that made me seem like less of a threat in women's spaces. I don't know.
Could be. I don't know.
More of a threat around men's spaces, which was unfortunate.
Right.
Because they, like men, this is my perspective, they view like a trans woman as comparable to themselves, and they know how they act, and they know how they are in social interactions. And so they're like, so long as you don't hit on me. It's like, because they think that we're going to act in a similar way. This has been heavily
Yes.
on my mind, actually.
I would get that. I would get that. I had several
Sure.
people when I first came out. I mean, it was used the word bisexual at the time. Even though I actually had like a fling, it was really just a fling. It wasn't even much of a fling. It was only like a flay with a transgender woman that I knew, though. And it wasn't until later on that I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I totally. I guess I'm pansexual. Who knew? Anyway, point being that when that came out, had people go, oh yeah, well, just don't hit on me. And I thought, you should be so lucky. Look at you. Really? You really think I'm going to have this? No. You should be so lucky. Anyway, that's kind of mean, but that was kind of how it worked. That's kind of how it worked for me. But I do believe that. I believe so. I think that being pansexual, I just assumed that I had both masculine and feminine in me, and it was okay. I was.
We all do, though.
Well, agreed. But see, like, and I mean, and
but
now in particular, I see that.
Yeah. You're just talking on like a social, definitely like on a social.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Platform. I get it.
Society, yeah, in society, they're like, look, you were born with certain genitalia.
Sure.
You must act in a certain way, and you go, wait, why is that? Because there are times when a CEO needs a good feminine, response to something, and then there are times a CEO needs a good masculine response to something. You can't run a company by being, well, Elon Musk, let's just say. You don't. And look at how well some of those companies are doing. I suppose maybe that's the point to
This
make.
is just to me as a sign of a disintegrated identity.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. And
You
I
were
think
just saying something though, Amethyst. You said, "Look how well his businesses are doing." Right?
Yeah.
You're looking at it. That is the masculine energy. Look how well the businesses are doing, but look how not well the connection of society is doing.
Oh, right.
So,
well,
because of that missing element,
but my
when
point
there's
was
too
that,
much of one, there's an imbalance.
yes, and my point was that they're not going well. I mean, Twitter is not looking good. I mean, so I was saying that sarcastically, but yes, I agree. It's lack of integration that did that. That if we can't see both of our both of the ways that we need to be in this world, which is both masculine and feminine, I think we struggle. I think there's a lot of difficulty that we'll experience our entire lives. So,
it would be a great topic. Maybe we could talk about this next time. Thanks for sharing, Amethyst. It's incredible.
Sure.
I mean, this just keeps opening more and more and more. Just thinking about having an episode talking about what is masculinity and feminine,
that's good.
divine masculine, divine feminine. And that way we can actually see that we're constantly interplaying within these energies. And you see the same dynamic in relationships, either same-sex relationships or cis men or women, that sometimes one has to be more than the other and more one than the other. All it is giving and receiving and giving.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like the sun and the moon. There's just this like dynamic that we need to just constantly be balanced in order to be going with the flow of the world, the flow of the universe.
Agreed.
That would be a really interesting topic, especially because I would love to hear, Lino, your perspective around that, because I reject the idea of like masculine and feminine energy, just tying it to masculine and feminine. because I think people often take that and tie it to gender, which is not tied to that at all. It's just different energies.
Exactly.
So
Agreed. That's one
yeah,
of the that's one of the bummers of something like Western magical tradition, is that it has used these words, but
it
in a
does.
way that today, like 200 years ago, maybe they would have gone, yeah, why not? It's 300 years ago.
Mm.
Renaissance era magicians might have, wouldn't have thought otherwise. But today in Western society, we go, oh, hang on, feminine only means this. So we have
Mm.
this desire to force a definition, or
That is
even
true.
better, not even
Equally,
force a definition, but make a law.
That is so
So
true.
yeah. And people tie the words to gonads as
yes,
well.
They
Like
do.
they
right,
They
tie it
do.
to
right.
Yeah.
the giving and receiving. If you're the
Right.
feminine energy, vagina,
They do.
receive. Like,
Yeah.
what the
Agreed.
fuck, dude? Yeah.
There's there are better ways. There are better ways to think about. That's next week. Let's do that next week. I think that could
Yeah.
be a
What
good
was
one.
Do we have
Because
any other questions in the chat room?
well, Lino,
we
you never said anything on internalized transphobia. Is that something that's been part of your experience?
That's a really good question. I don't. I had someone once tell me that I had internalized transphobia because I didn't identify as they, them. And that just
oh
didn't make
Right.
sense to me. I just said, well,
no
I can't, I just don't. I identify
yeah
as he, him. And since I was 4 years old, I felt like he, him. And so that's my
Mm.
truth. So when I hear of internalized transphobia, it's just something about even those two words doesn't feel like I have much to say, probably because I don't have
Mm.
internalized transphobia.
yeah
Um, I, I don't really fully understand it, probably because I don't feel it. But I
Mm.
mean, my only experience using the restroom was when I was transitioning. I remember I went to the train station with my mom and dad. We were going to go to LA, do I don't know what, and we took the train. I needed to use the restroom really bad, and I was probably about the same second year into transition, a little bit of facial hair and maybe some acne. And I was like, geez, where do I go? And there's no way I felt that I could pass to go to a men's restroom, let alone at a
Mm.
train station where there's like bums and a lot of like dudes traveling from like the LAX to, there's a bunch of dudes, everywhere in these dirty ass bathrooms. And so I was like, well, I think I still pass as a woman. So because my insecurities, people stare at me and they're giving me second looks. It must be that they're trying to figure out what I am. So I
Mm.
went to the woman's restroom, and the lady that was working there in Spanish, she's like, "Vete de aquí, vete de aquí." That means get out of here, get out of here. Like shoo, shoo, get out of here, go to the men's restroom. And I was like, whoa, 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 hey, okay, got it. And I remember being like, hey, I just got to pee. Hey, that's awesome. So then that was
right
from there
Yeah.
on forward, I realized, I can't use a woman's restroom ever again, and I'm okay with that. And so, but I mean, I still don't, I'm not answering your transphobia question, internal transphobia, because I don't feel internalized transphobia, if that makes any
oh
sense.
that's
Because to
good
me, here's another thing. To me, when I hear the word trans, I just think of human. I really do feel that we're all just equal. And so
same
I was like, well, how can I have internalized equilibrium, equalitarian, equality? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, Lino,
they
you're
don't even
too
come hand in
healed.
hand.
Gracious.
What's
but
that?
that
I'm like, you're too healed. You're coming at it from like this very high
but
chunk perspective, I'd call it. Because there's
that is
no,
though I
yeah,
mean
there's no
that is the
conflict.
internalized
You view
transphobia.
yourself as a human.
Well, I mean, not to have that. I mean, that is the internalized. When you oh shoot, now
Right.
I totally lost my train of thought. There was something you started saying. How healed you are. Hell.
I mean,
Oh
I
no,
mean,
I
I
guess I
mean,
do. Cause I agree. I'm like, well, of course I'm very egalitarian. Sure, sure, sure. But the internalized transphobia came from I'm very egalitarian, except for that person. Except for transgender people.
Hmm.
I mean, that was where I ended up. So
I
Interesting.
just see it as more as people I trying to find, like, for example, Amethyst, right now when you were talking about how, well, I'm transgender, in a way that you were saying that you were trans, but you're not going to be like that trans. And
yeah.
so to me,
Mm.
it has nothing to do with the label trans. It has nothing to do with pointing at that specific person. It has to do with the energy. If we see the life
Agreed.
all life is frequency and vibration. It's all energy. And if you really look at everything in the lens of energy, that's all it is. It's you identifying which energy you match closest to. So when I was, when I was changing or going through my changes, and I compared myself to other trans men, my thing was, will I ever be that masculine? Will I ever be as masculine as he? Or will my body ever be as buff as he, that trans dude? And basically, was I ever going to be that masculine? But will I ever be in that energetic alignment?
Yeah.
So now I just see it as an energetic alignment. So it's not that I'll ever. I mean, am I making any sense now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also just before because we're a little over an hour now. I also wanted to. I'm now going to refer to you as Miss Lou, because I think that's more appropriate. The person who had posted asking about internalized transphobia said she discovered she's a transgender woman about 2 months ago. This has been her biggest hurdle and has made her feel isolated. I just wanted to call out. I used the name you put in, but I want to recognize your gender. So I just wanted to do that. So thank you for that question. I think it was a really good one.
Thank you.
It gave
I'm
us.
guessing 2 months in, she's probably not got a name playing around yet. Maybe let us know.
not.
There's
Do
a name
you?
that you'd
'Cause-
like us to use for you.
Yeah, we'll change. But being an hour in, we totally need to do the what's masculinity, what's femininity next week.
And we
But,
invite Miss Lou to come back.
Yes,
We can-
absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
We should probably start shutting it down. It's 10 past the hour now. Lino, you had another poem, right? You knocked out a poem.
Yeah, I did. I
Oh,
have another
it's time for
poem.
the
Yeah,
poem.
definitely.
Let's do it.
Well, it's called Going Live.
Jade. Oh gosh, let me just say, I love that name, Jade, and I'm
Ooh.
honored to
Jade?
be able
Oh,
to
Jade
refer
says
to you
something?
as so. Yes,
What did Jade say?
Jade is Miss Lou's name, so Jade Lou. So now we know.
Nice to meet you, Jade.
Jade is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
And sort of like a gem. I have a little thing for gems.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say all of the names that I was picking from were all gems, and I think Jade might have been one of them actually.
Oh.
Maybe that's is that a trans femme stereotype? We just pick
don't
like different gems.
Flower names and gems, I guess. I don't know. You have flowers, I got gems. I don't know.
I mean, I've got gems too. I'm holding on to one right here. So
There you go. There you go. I've got my little piso amethyst right here. I've got a couple of them.
That's so amethysto of you.
Big. I know. This is a big ass piece of amethyst here that my
Oh,
son got for
gorgeous.
me.
Love that.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it's
stunning.
lovely. All right,
Beautiful.
sorry. Your poem. My apologies.
Oh God, amethyst.
Which is that one? Oh, you've got an amethysto too.
Why not?
Okay, here we go. It's called Going Live.
Going live.
Going live between our hearts and minds, connecting it all, even that which intertwines. Going live with our hearts full, our eyes in glee and our hands free, to touch you with our essence of truth, authenticity, integrity, and a sprinkle of a dancing hymn between the fleeting moments of time. Going live to share with you the who, the me, the we, and the us.
Ooh.
Oh, so good.
Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh. Painfully good. That was great.
Oh my
right.
goodness.
All right. Well, it's so, I just want to say to everyone, first of all, I'll say thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Dr. Lino, for coming back. Thank you to everybody who's watching. What a phenomenal, we had some great conversation, and we're just going to do it again next week. Right?
Let's do it again next week.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
See you all next week. Thank you for
Yep.
joining us.
Any
Let's
See
parting
you
keep
next
thoughts?
week. All right. Bye.
Oh, bye everyone.
Bye.